over the years of, I guess, 32 years now of doing this work, I've learned so much from families. What has worked better than other things? What has really not worked at all? What's really sabotaged their efforts? And what I've noticed is that if a family comes out in a very judgmental way, like you are involved in a cult, they use the C word right away, and you need to get out of this, and the leader is all these terrible things, and judging the person, like, how could you be so blind? How could you be so stupid? How could you be so gullible? All of that needs to be shelved, actually burned, just like put away forever. And instead, I will guide families to do something that might feel a little more slow going and a little more subtle than they are wanting at first, because they're wanting to go in and rescue, and they're hoping that if they just say the most perfect or magical thing in a conversation, it will kind of turn a light back on in their loved one, and that's often not necessarily how it goes down. And so I try to have the family first. We try to have them work on them if there's some things to work on, so that if they're going to be giving or wanting to give their loved one kind of a safe place to land when they come out, it really does need to feel safe. It needs to feel healthy enough for a person to want to be there. But I think for families, I'll guide them to have a conversation that feels relaxed, that is calm, that is slow, and to be ready to end the conversation at any time if it gets tense. That they don't have to throw it all into one conversation and overwhelm their loved one with all these facts and figures about what they're involved in. It is true that families often know more about the group than people in it because they're able to access information in a way that people in it can't. So they know that, and so they want to unload all of this on their loved one to educate them, but that is overwhelming to do in a great way, in a huge way at first. So I encourage families instead to come from a place of curiosity, so that they are the student, not the teacher at first. Tell us what you like about this. Tell us what works for you here. What was the draw? Educate us about what you're learning. Because I think if you come across like, here, your loved one is smart, and they got involved for some reason. It could have been that they were lied to and they believed that this is what they were going to be getting, but still that was the draw. And it could be that along the way they have learned some things that have been, valid, and they want to be able to share that. Because then I think, as with anyone, if you feel you're respected, if you feel like your mind is respected, that there's a reason that you got involved, there's a reason that you're staying involved, you're going to be way more open to hearing why it's also not safe, why it's not a good idea. But if you feel you're being criticized from the start, you're already shut down. If you want to tell someone that you think that they've gotten involved in something that turns out to not be what it was promised, first find out what they are getting from it, learn from them first, so they can feel good and they can feel like they are kind of on top within the conversation, again, as the teacher, your teacher. And then what you want to be able to do with them is to what I call talking about talking. So I will have families say, listen, thank you for sharing what you like about it and what's good about it. And I hope also that you can feel comfortable sharing with us what you don't like about it, which might be harder to talk about. And let's figure out how to talk about talking about it. What are the rules of engagement? Do you not want us to say anything? If, let's say, you do feel courageous enough or safe enough to say, actually, I am being mistreated in these ways. While I'm learning X, Y, and Z, I am also feeling like something is really wrong here. Do you want us to just be quiet and be listening? Do you want us to make sure we don't say, I told you so? Do you want us not to pile on with, and that's one of the things that we heard about, and there are these 12 other things. Do you just want us to be quiet so that you can fill the space with your words, with your openness, and just tell us how you want us to respond to you? And let us know also when you're done talking, when it feels like it's overwhelming and you want to hit pause and pick this up another time, and we will follow your lead. It's something also that can be very healing for family members involved in cults, because that's not the way they're being treated in the cult. Usually they're being pushed to share more, to reveal more, to get tense in conversations. And so it's sometimes, from talking to some former members, they said it was really nice to have a family member say, you get to decide, you get to be in charge of this conversation and share as much as you want, and then end it when you want. And they realized that that was never happening, either in their controlling relationship that the parents were trying to rescue them from, or within their cultic group. What's also true is that parents sometimes have already been hurt by their loved one, or the loved one. I don't mean to always say parent again, but I'm using sort of the majority of the cases here, but it can again be
the not cult member person.
Right. It's just that's longer, but that is exactly what I mean. So thank you. And I want people to hear that when I say parent, that parents have been hurt. And I don't want them to use that conversation to talk about how they've been hurt, or how they were so upset that their family member didn't come to Thanksgiving. This conversation is not about them. This conversation is about just listening and showing that they can be a safe place and a safe person to talk to. I think also I guide parents to notice if their child is using cult speak, because very often they have started using cult speak, but they've also been at times kind of trained to have these conversations and to know what to say and to have the lines ready, And so I will sometimes ask parents to say the following: you know what? I don't know if I fully understand that language, and I really want to understand what you're saying because it's important. So can you put it in your own words? That would help me out here so that I could really get the importance of your words. I just am not understanding it as you're saying it so far. So can you give us another shot? What you're doing there is you're helping
planting
someone,
a seed too.
Right, exactly. That they are speaking like other people in the cult, but they're not really opening up. They're not really connecting. And when you help someone get into their previous way of talking in their previous language, you help them get back into their pre-cult self. And it helps them be reminded of how they used to sound and how they used to say things. And they start to hear all the changes in them, in themselves. It also evokes feeling when you're talking from your heart. And you can be way more connected to what you're saying too, and feel way more connected to your family member who you're talking to. I think it's also important to use forever messages. And I talk to families about forever messages, that if they can tell that their loved one is still not feeling like they want to leave, not feeling like they feel comfortable even having this conversation continue, to use the last minute, if you can, to offer forever messages. I will be here, or we will be here. You will always have a home. You will always have a place to come where questions won't be asked, where you can, again, safely land and be able to rest, be able to feel safe. And you can call us at any time, or just show up at any time. There are people who stay involved in their cultic system or their cultic relationship because they don't know that. They don't know that they can come back home. They feel like they've burned their bridges, or they've pissed off or hurt their family members or whomever else. And so they will, and I've heard this from so many people, and that's why I weave this into guidance, to guidance with with families where people said, I stayed for longer because I just didn't know I had a place to go back to. Some families are not able to provide that, and they're not willing to provide it. But I'll offer it to a parent or to a loved one if they're able, and to remember to say it. And a lot of families will say, but that's obvious. And I'll say, no, it's actually not. It's not at all.